Welcome to the Marxist-Leninist Report. We have this article from Marxism-Leninism today. UPS contract resolved. Auto battle approaches. Where is Biden? Posted by Chris Townsend, August 28th, 2023. So this is, I'm a couple weeks late on this, but let's get into it. Major labor unrest among several key sections of the organized working class continues this summer, as the 75,000 Writers Guild and Screen Actors Guild members remain on strike. The massive 340,000 worker UPS contract with the Teamsters Union fell into place even before the expiration in late July. The much-awaited and predicted strike action never materialized as the company capitulated on several key issues in the face of a serious strike threat. The final settlement was overwhelmingly accepted by the membership, even though this catch-up contract still left some key problems unresolved. So, likely the capitalists that run these unions, because American unions are not, or states and unions are not very good these days due to capitalists getting in charge of them. But that's most likely why they still have some unresolved issues. Because the unions siding with the corporations. We need more radical people leading these unions. The situation of the part-time workforce is still less than ideal, although many significant advances for this huge section of the UPS workforce were won. The massive Teamsters Union mobilization to drive this settlement was a welcome sight, and it can be credited with most of the progress made in this agreement. For a good recap of the UPS settlement, see the balanced and detailed report by labor writer Luis Velez Leon in Labor Notes. Auto battle approaches. With the UPS showdown now behind us, the United Auto Workers Union contract with the big three auto companies, Ford, General Motors, and Stellantis, now looms ahead. The 150,000 UAW members and almost 275 plants and locations across the U.S. have now begun to mobilize towards their September 14th contract expirations. The issues are familiar: badly lacking wages, criminally low pay for perpetually second-tier workers, overwork and forced overtime, little time off in many plants, perpetual management harassment, and preservation of health and pension benefits, among others. Well, I would have to say that Henry Ford would be proud of this, but hopefully they can meet their contract. Solidarity with the UAW workers, but unions are not the way to achieve socialism. To all the syndicalists that may be watching this channel, because trade unions have mostly become corrupt here in the United States. Where was I? In this round of negotiations, the UAW is also led by virtually all new leadership, the result of one member, one vote elections forced on the union by the government in the wake of the removal of the previous UAW leadership for widespread theft and corruption. And to all those liberals out there who's watching, where is Biden on any of this? Like I just read, the government is literally forcing one member, one vote elections on the unions. And who's president right now? It's certainly not Trump. It's Biden. He's going after the unions. And that's a fascist move. That's what the fascists did. New UAW President Sean Fine is leading the campaign to rebuild the shattered leadership of the union and to prepare the membership for the major battle ahead with the big three auto barons. Member mobilizations and substantial education work is now underway across the union, a much-needed antidote to the years of virtually company union leadership by the previous union administrations. And this just goes to show we need to nationalize our automobile manufacturers. And we need to nationalize UPS. We need to nationalize FedEx. We need USPS. We need to nationalize all of this because, and not under our current government, because our current government works for the rich. Our current government are puppets for the rich. And a revolution's the only thing that can change this. A revolution by the workers and the farmers. The idea of Lenin, that's what Lenin wanted. Marx, he was like, only the workers should be behind the revolution. But no, Lenin came and said, that's not what we need. We need the workers and the farmers in solidarity with each other to bring about the socialist revolution. So let's continue. These efforts are long overdue, and it will be needed to focus the members on the need to fight and possibly strike if necessary. The several decades of concessions granted to these super profitable companies by the former UAW leadership are astonishing, although not surprising given the business union mindset where member needs are always subordinated to company partners. Restoring the fighting capacity and spirit of the UAW members is a daunting task, but there is no question that without this being done, there is little chance that gains will be made in the coming negotiations. On August 25th, UAW members at the Big Three voted to authorize a strike if necessary, indicating that support with a whopping 97% margin. For details on this process as we approach the September deadline, see UAW Auto Bargaining Resources. Mind-boggling auto profits. The three U.S.-based auto companies are experiencing a never-before-seen gorge of profits, the three companies having banked more than $27 billion in profit in just the first 6 months of this year. And these profits lead to corporate price gouging. That's a lot to do with the inflation, also the war in Ukraine, but due to the fact that we're buying our oil, this is in terms of gas prices, due to the fact we sanctioned Russia, and we are buying our oil from Saudi Arabia at higher prices. That's kind of off topic, but this is my video, so. Astonishingly, the Big Three have ranked in $250 billion in profits in the last 20 years. See the UAW video that details this amazing success for the auto bosses. UAW President Fon, when pressed by company-friendly media, complained point-blank that the record profits mean record contracts. The Big Three auto corporations are part of the wider trend of super profitability in many U.S. industries, with labor unions having been repressed or even liquidated over the past 50 years, wages in real terms driven down to levels not seen in decades, with all manner of public subsidies now poured into many industries by national and local governments, and with taxes on corporations reduced or even ended all across the spectrum. It is no wonder that the profit stream has reached flood stage. But if we nationalize these corporations, there will be no need to tax corporations, because there will be no corporations to begin with. They'll all be state-owned. And these public subsidies, they're just giving these corporations money and basically just bribing them. This is not helping the situation at all. What we need to do is end all subsidies and nationalize the entire private sector. There should not be a private sector. And a lot of people would argue then it will be inefficient. No, it won't. We restrict trade and we rely on our own country, and we can look at examples of this in the Soviet Union. We can look at Cuba. The U.S. has sanctioned both the Soviet Union and Cuba, and Soviet Union had a flourishing economy, and Cuba's got a flourishing economy. The Soviet Union, they ended poverty, they ended homelessness. And yes, there was droughts, but a lot of that could have been avoided had it not been for the U.S. sanctions. But let's continue. Biden's destructive interference. It seems apparent by now, or it should be, based on the facts readily available in several recent labor disputes, that President Joe Biden opposes strike action on principle. His gambit is to integrate himself with the microscopic layer of union leaders who are spellbound by the attention, then systematically undermine and attempt to sabotage any strike action or even hard bargaining by unions that are willing to fight back. Evidence of active intervention by Biden in recent strike showdowns on behalf of the workers and union members is non-existent. Wait, what? Oh, on behalf of the workers and union members is non-existent. A few White House press releases have appeared to wish workers a hoped for fair settlement with their belligerent and anti-union employers. Biden does say the word union and praises unions occasionally in general terms, but only in front of union audiences. Yeah, it's literally just virtue signaling and manipulating his supporters, because he knows his approval rating is in the toilet, and if Trump wins the Republican primary, I don't see how Biden is going to get reelected. Not saying I want Trump in either, but I don't see how Biden's going to get reelected. He has done nothing for this country except for drive us towards fascism. The actual Biden record of supporting workers and their unions who are compelled to resort to serious strike threat or action is miserable. By itself, this fact demolishes the self-created myth that Biden is somehow the most pro-union president in U.S. history. His shameful breaking of the rail workers' strike in late 2022, his meddling in the West Coast longshore negotiations as revealed by the Chamber of Commerce, the recent UPS settlement where Teamsters President Sean O'Brien publicly rebuked Biden and told him to stay out of the negotiations, and now his dangerous pressuring and factionalizing to undermine what may develop into a strike in the auto industry are all alarming acts. Biden unwilling to pressure the employers. Rather than Biden taking tangible and swift action to rein in the profiteering corporations, there are a few words, some well-wishing, followed by active collaboration with the employers. There have been no White House meetings called for Biden to read the riot act to the fabulously wealthy bosses forcing these strike situations. No high-level meetings have been called for Biden to mobilize the federal machinery to pressure the corporations. There have been, however, multiple examples of Biden funneling billions of dollars in subsidies to the electric vehicle industry, a virtually unorganized section of the economy that now endangers the jobs of hundreds of thousands of UAW members. Yeah, with these electric vehicle subsidies, if we transition to completely 100% to electric vehicles, we're going to be reliant on Taiwan. Yes, it's a part of China, but still, we need to close off our economy to other countries, because neoliberalism is literally just a way to exploit those other countries. And we should be self-reliant. And also, with Taiwan having its own government that is not on the principles of Marxism-Leninism, the prices are just going to be through the roof anyway. So, and the electric vehicle thing, it just, and the fact that he's funneling billions of dollars to a private corporation instead of nationalizing the energy sector and nationalizing the car manufacturing sector is just evident of what Joe Biden is. Let's continue. He has failed utterly to consider the real plight of the workers who are forced out of necessity to the brink of strike action, or to even strike. The considerable presidential power and reach has instead been deployed in all of the recent situations to place pressure on the unions involved to slow down, calm down, hold back, and give it to the bosses' demands that they settle without fixing the dire problems they face. There's no evidence in any of the recent battles that Joe Biden has ever raised his voice to the corporations even one time. Well, look at it this way. Who's the ones funding him? Who's the ones that pull the strings? It's the corporations. It's the World Economic Forum. It's the global capitalist elite. And when I talk about the World Economic Forum, I don't mind like social globalism, working with other countries and other people. I don't believe in military intervention. I don't believe in imperialism, and I sure don't believe in global capitalism. These in labor and elsewhere who are inclined to want to believe the myth that Biden is the most pro-union president in U.S. history must be challenged. Those who promote this myth and use it to enforce political discipline within the unions demanding unconditional obedience to the Democratic Party must likewise be exposed, even denounced in some cases. Yes, they must, because if they have unconditional obedience to the Democratic Party, they're not there for the workers, because the Democratic Party is a fascist party. It's the one party that's pushing the most fascism. The Republicans, yeah, they're pushing imperialism, the highest stage of capitalism, but Democrats are fascist. And Joe Biden's just proven it with his oppression of the unions. Where was I? They provide political cover for an administration that has proven itself to side openly and covertly with the employers in situations where strike action is not only justified but also required. His actions have weakened and short-circuited the momentum of more than 500,000 union members in the past year, who would have accomplished more, and who would have given encouragement to the broad working class if this White House stayed out of the matter. Joe Biden lives in comfort, free from the pressures felt by the rank and file, who now toil under dictatorial employers and in intolerable conditions, not even since before labor's renewal in the 1930s. Mobilized and energized union members, led by authentic labor leaders, will address our plight with the fuzzy intrigues, interventions, and pronouncements of this president are not welcome. And yeah, Chris Townsend is a 44-year union member and leader. He is a retired political action director for United Electrical Workers Union and was the organizing and field director for the Amalgamated Transit Union. He may be reached at, that's his email. So yeah, pretty good article right there. And solidarity with the UAW workers and solidarity with UPS workers. I know they're going to have to, the strike has been avoided and negotiations have been made for the UPS workers, but I do not think the negotiations were fair, and I don't think that unions are what's going to save us from the impending doom that it seems like this country is headed towards. But there is hope. I'm not pushing the idea of nihilism. There is hope, and that hope's in the collective. It's in the working class. And we just got to put this culture war nonsense aside and unite. That's what we got to do. A house divided against itself will not stand. That's what Abraham Lincoln said. And yes, there was problems with Abraham Lincoln, but he was a progressive figure. He was a progressive figure. And we can't demonize the idea that we can't act like the United States Revolution wasn't progressive. There was progressive aspects to it. Was it perfect? No. Nothing's perfect, but we must progress from what the American Revolution was about. So thank you for watching. This has been the Marxist-Leninist Report. I'll see you in the next video.